Thank you, Madam. The European Union, in the light of the immigration crisis, has had to face up to situations of emergency, very serious situations, and this was done by increasing the financial envelopes of the different agencies, by creating new instruments through targeted funds, through hotspots, and by mobilizing national and European actors. The Court of Auditors, in the light of the importance of this matter, has put this onto its list of priorities. And ever since 2016, we've started a lot of work on immigration, asylum, and other issues, for instance, the external dimension of immigration. In the annual report on 2016, for the very first time, we included a chapter on MFF3, security and citizenship. We'll do exactly the same this year. We've also prepared a special report on hotspots, the access points in Italy and Greece. We have 3 special reports, one on the facilities in favour of refugees in Turkey, funds for Africa, and also on the request of the Libe Committee, a report on the information systems applicable to border controls, which will be published in April 2019. We shall also be publishing a document tomorrow on the integration of immigrants using the AMIF fund, which was mentioned today. And every year we prepare reports on the agencies. What are the conclusions of these different reports? In the special report on hotspots, the access points, we talked about the positive points of these actions in Italy and Greece, despite the delays and the weaknesses, especially in the case of non-accompanied minors. The access points have made it possible to manage the immigration flows in these 2 countries, which are very much at the front line of the arrival of immigrants. It has also made it possible for them to improve their registration procedures and coordination of aid. However, an increase in funds is necessary, since there are quantitative needs but also qualitative needs. The Court has therefore recommended in Greece to increase the welcoming capacity, to improve the infrastructure, to reduce the delays for the asylum requests, in order to improve the information for refugees, and in Italy. And and also in Greece, we've asked for an increase in the help for non-accompanied minors, and to have more experts and look at what we have in place and see what we have learned from past experiences. As very often, we understand the complexity of the funding and the difficulty to identify the expenses related to the actions undertaken because of the different funds that have been used. Apart from AMIF and FSC, you could also use other funds, FIDER, Erasmus, the Initiative for the Youth Employment, etc. Many funds. In our report on 2016 budget, we have understood that the Commission has not informed us of the total amount of money that was spent to cover the emergency that existed in 2016, and therefore it is very difficult to estimate this too. So we recommend to set up a specific structure to pass on this information in order to make it possible for us to understand what funds have been spent, and then the question of the OECD nomenclature is only relevant in the case of refugees and development. We've also seen that there is an increase in the needs for funding mechanisms, which we understand are a set of very complex mechanisms which are annexed to the EU budget, which is a task that needs to be analysed by the Budgetary Control and Budgets Committee and by ourselves. So very often we only understand the payments affected by the main fund, for instance the AMIF fund, but not the funding related from other sources coming from other parts of the MFF. And in many cases, we can't draw a distinction between advances and payments that have been realized because the two are not disassociated. We've also mentioned the management practices which we believe that could be criticized in the agencies. Frontex, in the light of the comments that we've made on the use of aid in 2015, we have talked about a public market procedure which is more adjusted to smaller vessels than the military vessels which are being supplied by member states. That is one of our pieces of advice. We need to also improve on ex post evaluation on the efficacy of these activities, both in the Commission for Frontex and the hotspots, and also in the member states, using different indicators for the integration of immigrants, and also coordination between the Union and member states, exchange of data, particularly between Frontex and the member states, in order to have a census of the immigrants that have arrived irregularly. So, to conclude, the Union has been capable to adjust to the crisis and to the emergency and has facilitated the entry of immigrants, but quite slowly, without responding quantitatively or qualitatively to all the needs. The procedures are too lengthy. Non-accompanied minors are not taken into account or not protected sufficiently. So work needs to be done both on the part of the member states and the EU. The flexibility of the use of these funds is useful to face up to this emergency. But then at the same time, there are recurrent lacuna, and this is due to the complexity and the lack of transparency. The different funds that have been requested, which don't always have a direct relation with the activity to be undertaken, and then the use of loans and expenses, which make it extremely difficult to get the information that is relevant to the European Parliament. So we need to rationalise and make this work more transparent in order to improve the efficacy and efficiency of the immigration policies of the Union and information for citizens. Thank you.